Hello and welcome to the last Analyst Inside Cricket of the year. Well, live anyway, certainly as a video in that sense. And, well, it's been a weird year, hasn't it? I mean, who would have thought, Simon, that we'd be doing videos with players in October, November and December? There was going to be so much cricket on, wasn't there, in that time of year, and England were going to be away and playing interesting series, and we didn't think that we'd have lots of players at home and lots of people at home as well, stuck at home with no availability of club nets or club houses to go and enjoy themselves in. And that's one of the reasons we created this virtual cricket club in aid of course, the Professional Cricketers Trust. And there has been some comments, Simon, on social media this week that it's probably not the first time that I've been knocked into tier 4.
Yeah, I think I saw that happen quite regularly when you were playing yours. Was it tier 4 or tier 5? Or well, if they had grounds with tier
well, if 5, I played at the MCG, it would have been probably about tier 8. But luckily, not too many grounds in my era had too many tiers. So we're both in tier 4. So it's going to be a quiet Christmas, but we have got some highlights of our virtual cricket club to play you over the next half an hour or so. Some really good guests we've had over the last couple of months. And what about the season, though, overall, the summer, which looked as if it was never going to get started, but in the end, actually, produced some good cricket.
It did. There was some fascinating cricket to watch. It did feel a little bit, though, like the greatest summer followed by the worst summer. I mean, it was the worst summer in a way because no spectators were allowed into the ground. And that is what the sport is all about, isn't it? Professional sport is all about. It's about that interaction between the players and the spectators, and the joy, the agony, the tension, the despair, whatever that is transmitted by the crowd based on what's going on the field. And we didn't have that in the summer, and it was really weird to be there and commentating and seeing players really put it in, and they did put it in as well. In the test matches that I saw, it was cut and thrust. There was some great cricket and some dramatic cricket, and yet there was no one there to appreciate it. And after we had that incredible summer the year before, the greatest summer followed by the worst summer, I think. I mean, in a way, it's fair because we just lacked that spectator experience, really.
Yeah, and of course, it actually, I mean, I suppose to look at it on a positive side, the amateur game, the club game, although it took some time to get going, might have just drawn in some more supporters, some more members, some more interest. I went down to my local club, one of my local clubs, Teddington, in Bushy Park, lovely spot, where even the deer were socially distancing, watching the game. There's a fantastic image. I'll post it actually on social media. 2 deer, literally about 2 meters, 3 meters apart, watching a game going on. And there were 3 games going on all at the same time. And you just felt clubs really kind of tried to build up the interest and drew lots of people. And it was actually lovely sitting in Bushy Park watching club cricket, high standard. Some of the Middlesex players playing in the Teddington team and in other Middlesex League sides. So there were obviously lots of negatives, and I'm sure lots of clubs will struggle, but there was this sort of surge of interest towards club cricket. And actually, there were some lovely stories. We had some nice stories in the Cricketer magazine this month about things like clubs doing food banks for local communities. And also another one was creating an after-match meal, because your tea interval being sort of either banned or, very much kind of mitigated, and to create an opportunity to have dinner at the end, a barbecue or something. And maybe that is a way forward for clubs. If tea intervals are going to be something which are going to be difficult to stage, you have a dinner or some kind of little event, even an outside event at the end of the match. And that might draw in spectators and other members of the club as well as the players.
I think perhaps one of the lessons from the year is, how much you appreciate something when you don't have it. And perhaps, we all need to do that, don't we? We've missed so much this year, and cricket is one of those things. I just sense that people were absolutely desperate to play again. Of course, the weather, I can remember the weather in April and May. It was just absolutely stunning. The like of which I don't ever remember before having weather like that. Fantastic cricket weather, and almost, just being mocked by the weather every day, that you couldn't actually, players couldn't actually go out and play. It was sort of perverse, really. Of course, then, when we did start playing, the first day of the first test, at Southampton. It did rain for quite a lot. We didn't have much cricket. I mean, and then we had bad light and lots more rain. But I mean, the cricket was still fascinating. It still drew us in, and the fact it was played at all, the fact that we got through it was incredible. And you mentioned club cricket. The club cricket season did eventually start, and quite a bit of cricket was played in that chunk, and perhaps people just appreciated how much they missed it and were really throwing themselves into it. But let's hope all clubs, as many clubs as possible, can survive. I mean, it's going to be tough next year. If, for example, in the professional game, if spectators don't get back into the ground in significant numbers. I know lots of tickets have been sold for all the international matches in the coming season, but if spectators are not able to come in big numbers, then it does make you worry a little bit for the viability of some clubs in the game itself.
And of course, for the professionals playing in these bio bubbles as well. Actually, Joe Root, in our little highlight clips of the autumn interviews that we did, Joe Root talks about the difficulty of playing in a bio bubble and the weirdness of no crowd. Hopefully that isn't going to happen. Still, England's tour of Sri Lanka is slightly not in doubt, but there's lots of stuff to overcome before that happens, actually. And I guess there's some other quite interesting things happened in the year, not least this sort of Black Lives Matter campaign, which really gained momentum. And whatever you think about the Black Lives Matter sort of initiative, it drew more awareness of, the fact that we haven't really brought the Black community into the game enough in the last few months or few years. And so therefore some campaigns have been initiated, not only the ACE one in Surrey, but also one in the Midlands as well, and just drawing more awareness about the fact that we haven't really perhaps embraced that community enough, and we need their help, we need their enthusiasm. And I mean, I grew up watching. Really, one of my first test matches was West Indies against England. And, some of those players in that West Indies side in 1973 then were very big characters in the county game. And I'm sure it influenced me, wanting to play, because they played with such exuberance and flair and lack of inhibition. And, that we want that back, don't we? But for them as much as for us, really.
Yeah, it was the year you hope that the game woke up to its lack of inclusivity, and the game has to be for everyone, and everyone, I think, was made aware of that. And it's something to really take forward. It's not something that it's just part in 1 year or one part of the summer. It's something to take forward. And hats off to Michael Holding and Ebony for what they did on Sky, and for Ebony's involvement in ACE at Surrey. It's a really important initiative, and we give as much publicity to that as possible. And of course, it needs to happen not just in Surrey, but it needs to happen in other counties as well.
So let's just pick our highlight and low light of the year. What's your highlight?
Just getting back onto the field. That first day at Southampton, okay, it was a surreal experience, but just players in whites without the rain, walking onto the field, because it rained later, but get back playing cricket after all those months without it, because I think a lot of people thought it was going to be a blank summer for everybody, club cricketers, county cricketers, international cricketers, and glory be, the West Indies came over, fantastic effort by them to come over, and we got playing cricket again. So I think that was my sort of overall highlight, really, the fact we got the game going again.
And in that regard, I suppose my highlight would be a stellar performance within those exciting encounters, which was Chris Woakes and that Joss Buttler partnership to win that test match against Pakistan, where they were really losing their way. And suddenly, so from nowhere, England resurrected that run chase. And it was just great to see Chris Woakes, who's so much an unsung hero. In any other era, without a Ben Stokes, he would be the best all-rounder in Britain. And also, probably, without the Anderson and Broad, he would be the best fast bowler we've had for 10 years as well, because his record actually at home is even better than Anderson or Broad. So it was great to see somebody, Mr. Nice Guy, the guy that just is always there, Mr. Reliable, and getting his Man of the Match award for that performance really sort of crystallized his contribution to England over the years.
What about your low light of the summer?
I'm going to tell you my low light. I mean, my low light, it is, players still going off a bad light. And that's a sort of old chestnut, isn't it, that we come back to every year. And there's still, even in these biosecure things where it was so desperate for everyone to get on and get the play going, still we go off a bad light. I mean, just it's indescribably irritating. And the game is sort of making one step forward and two back all the time with that kind of thing. But ultimately my low light is behind you, because you have got a copy of my new book, A New Innings, on your shelf, and it hasn't moved from that spot. It's clearly unopened.
No, that's not true. I've read it. I've read it from.
You liar! You must have read the draft version then, not the real version. It doesn't look as if it's been opened.
No, I have read this from start to finish, Josh, and I would urge everybody who wants to have a very good sleep on Christmas afternoon to open this book, and then let's hope that lots of it's a really thought-provoking book, actually, and I promise you, I have read. You didn't pay me anything to say that. I promise you, I have read every single word in it.
What have you? And you've just taken it down, and you've got another one behind you, actually, which is quite good. What's the one below it on your bookshelf?
Well, this is quite
Mark's original spin, yeah. And we should mention that.
Opposite today, Victor announcing officially, I mean, I knew it was happening, but Victor announcing officially today that he is leaving the Guardian / Observer after 31 years as their correspondent. I mean, Mike Selby was a correspondent of the Guardian, and Victor took over, but Victor was the Observer cricket correspondent for many years, and he is leaving after 31 years. And he had a shot across the bows of. He managed to combine Brexit and the 100 today, saying both of them are crap, and everybody knows that we shouldn't be doing it. But no one's got the balls not to do it, which is that was quite strident for Victor, actually. It's his last one. He sort of fired both his cannons into the side of the ship, really. So there we go, and also admitting that he'd always struggled for an intro. But he won't have to struggle anymore because.
Well, I know what he means, actually, because he wrote today about how he's staring at a blank screen and he can't get going, and I mean, I've done that so many times as well. Writer's block, sort of constipation. You just can't get your article started at all. So go back to John Woodcock, the great Times cricket correspondent, whose advice to anyone with writer's block is just tell the story. And I mean, it sounds sort of fairly facile to say that, but actually it's a good piece of advice. And the other piece of advice I'm going to give you, any writer, is don't get it right, get it written. How about that? Do you like that?
Well, also, I mean, there are lots of sort of sayings about writing. I mean, another one is no piece is ever as good as you think it is, or as bad as you think it is.
That's very true. Yeah.
I know some people think, oh no, that piece is terrible, and goes in the paper or online or whatever these days, and people read it and. Then they move on to something else, and no one thinks this is absolutely disgraceful, shocking. Okay, there's lots of typos in it and the words in the wrong place than they might do, but people read it and then they move on, don't they? And occasionally they think, oh, that was really good today, but no one ever sort of, perhaps just we do as journalists reading other people's copy sometimes, but possibly, I don't know, general readers, they read and move on.
Have you got a book that you've asked Santa for Christmas?
No, I don't. Does Santa exist? I'm not sure Santa exists. I sort of gave up asking Santa for things. I haven't. My children are sort of gradually moving on from that as well. So
okay. We've got a nice caricature cartoon on the front page of the Cricketer, the Christmas issue, actually, of Santa getting caught up in spider cam with the reindeer sort of almost garroted by the spider cam as he's flying into wherever, the Aegeus Bowl or somewhere to drop off his presents, and spider cam's causing his passage a little bit of a problem. So that's a little segue, I suppose, into saying to everybody who's supported us both on our podcast and on our virtual live stream, the World's Best Cricket Club. You can still join that, by the way, worldsbestcricketclub.com. We are going to be doing lot more live stream interviews after Christmas, after the new year. Andrew Strauss is definitely inked in as one of our first guests. Ian Botham has promised to appear. There will be others. Marcus Trescothick I'm going to get on in the first month of January as well. So we've got lots of guests coming up, but just a big thank you to everyone who's supported that club on behalf of the Professional Cricketers Trust. And Simon, thank you for your contributions as well.
it's been really fascinating actually. So to get everyone sort of in a relaxed mode, you know, sometimes if you're doing an interview with a player and they've just done whatever on a day's play, you know, it's a quick grab, 3 minutes or whatever, and there's a lot of not cliche, that's not the right word. I think the players actually try quite hard, but there's not necessarily as much insight as you would hope for. But you get a chance to get a player relax, sit down, think about the game, talk about the game. I mean, Josh Butler, for example, we did last Thursday, and he'll be on a future highlights program. Just talking about playing the ramp shot and how he practiced it and how he developed it and the technical side of it. It was just really interesting to listen to him talking about it. Next time you watch him play, you'll really appreciate how he goes about playing that shot and the mindset before he plays that shot. That was just a little insight into, but there were lots of others as well. There were many other insights. And it was great to get players, their enthusiasm as well for joining in. It was great to have them with us and answering.
I've always wanted to get players sort of at home, really, and showing us their environment where they relax. And you don't often get behind the scenes of players, really, do you? You get lots of interviews of them, behind in front of a sponsored board or something, or on the pitch at the end of play, but they're not very relaxed then. So you're right, to try and get them at home, which is, in a way, that's one of the sort of bonuses of COVID. People have been stuck at home, so we have actually got a little bit closer to their lives. And so we've got coming up, we've got a little extract from Root, from Wood, from Broad, and from Tuffers as well, just looking back at their life and their career and sort of momentous events within that. And it just remains for us to say, both of us, that it's obviously going to be a difficult Christmas for everyone, but try and enjoy it, and look forward to 2021, which is going to be guaranteed better than 2020. So from both of us, have a Merry Christmas. And by the way, we'll be back with a short show December the 30th to look back at the year again and to crown a few champions as well. But in the meantime, Merry Christmas to all of you, and hope you enjoy these video clips.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
So you've had, as I said, you've had a weird sort of few months playing with no crowd, behind closed doors. What's the hardest thing about that?
I think my first experience of it was I walked out to bat for the first time this summer, and I walked out on a hat-trick ball, and it was just deadly silent, and I didn't really know how to sort of react to that. It was almost worse, having been in that situation before, because normally you've got something to really get you going and feel like it gets you in the game, a bit of an atmosphere to feed off, and especially a home crowd. You always look forward to playing Test summers in England because of that lively, bubbly atmosphere you get within the grounds, and that wasn't there. So it did take a little bit of an adjustment in that respect, and I think you've probably noticed it the most when the games started when you were in the field and the games felt like they were starting to meander along a little bit, or there was a quite substantial partnership building, where the crowd can actually have quite an impact on the group and can give you a real lift, or really create something that you might not necessarily be able to create on the field. So it was, I suppose, managing those pockets of play and those times within games as best we could as players, knowing that it was going to be tough, and trying to find other ways of making sure we were always on it throughout any session or any difficult passage of play.
Since I've got to 30, I actually try and bowl a bit more, and I feel my body copes with it better. I feel like you need miles in the legs. I mean, the England trainers, they don't like us running on roads too much, but actually I try and run on roads once a week, really, because I think you need that impact on the bones, on the body. I think bowling is quite a tough, unique, weird thing to do. You're 10 times your body weight goes through your muscles or your
10. God, I mean, some people say 6, but that's horrendous.
It's 10. So if you don't put any impact through the body, and then go and bowl, then your body sort of screams at you. We've all done a pre-season game or played a game of football and we haven't done for a long time. The next day you feel awful, don't you? So I try and just keep it quite regular now. Even in lockdown, I bought a net off Amazon and just bowled into the net. Not a big cricket net, just a little golf net. But I bowled into that just to keep the body moving.
Yeah, because actually everything hurts, doesn't it, after a day's bowling? I mean, different things hurt different days. I used to find sometimes that I'd be really aching on some leg or, you know, some knee or something. And I'd get there the following day and feeling really stiff and think, how am I going to get on the park? But as soon as I started bowling, I forgot about that and something else started hurting. So it's sort of, I don't know, there's a sort of psychosomatic, isn't it?
There's a love for that. There's a great satisfaction walking off after a test match or a 4-day win where your toes are a bit bloody, you're aching, you're tired to a degree, like to the nth degree where you're knackered, but you've got to win. There's a great sort of satisfaction and almost addiction to that I love.
Did you know the situation then? Did you know that if they only got one run, you'd win on a boundary count? Did everybody know that on the bench?
No, I honestly didn't. We didn't even know the rules coming into the dressing room after me and Stokesy had been batting. It was literally no one knew what was going on, who was batting, what could happen. It was just because he had been up, down all game, win, lose, win, lose, win, lose. The emotions of the day just sort of take over, and there's no sort of calm, rationale. Even Morgie, who was the most calmest bloke, level bloke in the world, he never gets too high, too low. He was level, but you could see like he was trying to get things in order because everybody else was all up a height. So it was hard to imagine what the dressing room was like. I've never seen the dressing room like that ever, where Jace couldn't find his box, so he was using my box. Someone else couldn't find their pads. Joss was going to bat. Stokes was in the toilets at the back, just having 2 minutes to himself. So everyone's like, "Where's Stokesy?" No one knows where he is before he's about to go out. It was just carnage. There was fruit everywhere because Jason lobbed it when the ball had hit Stokesy's bat. We have like nuts and fruit and little bits of food on the table to pick at during the game. And when the ball hit his bat, Jason jumped off the middle sort of island that's in the Lord's dressing room, and he'd thrown all the fruit everywhere. So I'm obviously gutted that I've getting run out. And as I'm walking back in, I'm standing like cashews and dried mango and stuff like that. Jason's hide everything everywhere.
You started life as a very, very good left arm spinner. So I'm going to So I'm just actually going to play you a tiny bit of your bowling.
Well, okay. I didn't actually start as a left arm spinner.
No, well,
actually, you was a very terrible left arm seamer.
Yeah. Well, how did that change come about then?
Because do you remember Jack Robertson?
Of course.
Jack Robertson. Yes, Middlesex. And I can remember going down there as a very, very young child, under 11s or something like that. And we went down to the indoor nets, and Jack, he used to have the cravat on and everything, didn't he? I think he was a batsman, wasn't he?
He was a fine batsman, opening batsman for Middlesex in England, yeah.
Yes, that's right. And a lovely fella and what have you. And he had his flannels on and everything, looked immaculate. And I was down there tear-assing in, trying to bowl fast and what have you, left-handed. And he pulled me to one side and he said, listen, Phil, he said, you've got a very good action, you know what I mean? But he sort of said, there's lots of fast bowlers out there, and you're sort of medium pace a bit, you know what I mean? He said, but what there isn't, there aren't a lot of left arm spinners. So he said, what? And then he gave me 5 minutes of his time, and he sort of like put the ball in my hand and showed me how to spin it, turn the doorknob and what have you like that. And so then I sort of cut my run up down a little bit, and then ran up and just bowled like a cutter stroke left arm spinner at 11. It pitched, turned, and sort of the little kid down the other end went to play the shot and missed it. And it sort of registered very, very quickly with me that this was quite good.
How did you feel about your future then? Can you remember thinking, how many test wickets am I going to get?
I never thought about test wickets, but I do remember being really clear that I didn't just want to play for England. I never really had a goal of just playing for England. I wanted to be successful for England. I wanted to play and win test matches for England. So I remember being told I was playing the day before the game. And Ian Botham came into the change room and presented me with my cap. And obviously that felt very special. I was like, wow, like how good is this? I'm going to play. But I never remember feeling, oh, I've made it then. I was like, right, what's my next challenge? What do I need to do? Where do I need to go? And I played in Sri Lanka, and actually it was a really good place to make my debut because, on Hawkeye, which is our tracking system, which judges how pitches move, and it's the flattest pitch in the world. It does the least. So if you're ever going to walk into Test cricket and think, "Cool, this is hard," it's there. And I left that, got home for Christmas, and I remember thinking, this is a next step up. There's no doubt about that. I've got to have variations. You can't have spells that you just take it easy. You've got to charge in all the time. And actually, I went to New Zealand after Christmas, sort of January, February, really, really like switched on and motivated to how I wanted to go about it. And Jimmy and I actually came into the Test side for Harmy and Hoggy at Wellington, and both of us did quite nicely. And I just remember feeling like the intensity that I would bowl every ball at just went through the roof. And it was a good realization. Yeah, I'm not saying it would have been different if I played at Trent Bridge and got 5 for 20, but it might have been easier to go, "Oh, I've made it," if that makes sense. But actually, one for 90 off 30 odd at Colombo was like, wow, okay. I remember Jai Wardner walking out to bat, and his highest scores came up on the big screen, and it was like 290, 270, 250, all at this ground, Colombo. And I thought, oh no, this is going to be a tough few days. But no, I really loved the experience, and I loved the togetherness of it. And I remember I got home that Christmas and put my England cap on top of the Christmas tree. That was my star.
In terms of taking the wicket to win the Ashes, everybody wants to do that. It's sort of strange now because I feel like, yes, it's a big deal, but I'm more pleased that it's more relief, to be honest, that I got that wicket. Then I'm immensely proud of it, but relief that we'd actually gotten over the line and won the Ashes at that point. In the morning, it was great from Alistair Cook. I hadn't bowled that well that game. I was a bit new to international cricket. I was a bit inconsistent. And he threw me and Stokesy the ball in the morning when he could have easily went to Broad and Finn. And he backed me and Stokesy, two of the younger, more inexperienced lads. And I bowled at Adam Burgess all morning. And I was begging Stokesy to will he just bowl one on the hip so I can bowl at the tail end? And I went for like 4 or 5 overs, but I kept bowling at Burgess, the guy that was in. And eventually got Hazelwood on strike, and that's when it happened. But the ball before the Nathan Lyon one, I'd bowled outswing all morning, hadn't tried any in-swingers. And then I tried a massive in-swinger, and I went down the leg side for 4 byes, and Brody screamed at me, "What are you doing? Just keep it simple. Next ball, I got the wicket." So listen to Stuart Broad, eh?
Have you ever been asked to be part of the England coaching setup? The spin guru, he says, an exclamation mark.
Well, sort of yes and no. I mean, nowadays they encourage, we go down on the pitch, or we did used to go down on the pitch and talk to the guys beforehand when they were warming up. We used to sort of have a little chat with them, and sort of like occasionally they'd sort of, ask for a little bits and pieces of advice, but not actually have ever... Can you hear me still?
Yeah. We still got you. Yeah,
carry on, yeah.
Oh, okay. You're actually talking. I'm so far behind you on the what's it called? So yes, they have. Yes, they have. But then I must admit, I've usually been a little bit too busy, and so you don't want to go. I haven't been asked to go down there with a tracksuit on and stand at the back of a net, even though I'd quite like to. I think, But Alistair Cook was always saying, "Phil, come down and have a chat with the boys." Chris Silverwood has said, "Come down, and have a little chat with Leachy, and what have you." So. The offer is there, that's for sure.
I suppose just relating to sort of other players in the world, you're often grouped, quite understandably, with 3 other batsmen, Kane Williamson, Virat Kohli and Steve Smith, as the sort of 4, powerful musketeer batsmen in the world in all formats. Do you look at how they're going? Do you sort of measure yourself against them ever?
I try not to measure myself against other players. One thing I do is watch a lot of them play, watch a lot of how they go about constructing different types of innings across the 3 formats. You're looking at 3 of the greatest players the game's seen, and I think when all 3 of those guys finish up, they'll look back, or we'll look back at this generation or this period of Test match cricket and see 3 of the great players of our time. I'm not sure I would put myself in their bracket, to be honest. But what I would say is I watch Kane bat and I look at how he plays, how late he plays the ball, how still he is and correct he is, and how under pressure he really does find a way to trust his defence on any given surface. And I think that's a great quality to have, as well as the skill to be able to do it and to play the ball as late as he does, to mentally be able to not concede confidence to the bowler and be able to trust all of his technique and his ability is something to be admired. You look at Steve Smith and he's just, I mean, at times he's awful to watch. He's horrible on the eye, but God, you pay for him to have him in your team. He's a fantastic run scorer. I think the way he thinks about the game and the way he manages passages of play is exceptional. How he makes bowlers bowl where he wants them to. And again, his self-confidence, you can see by some of his idiosyncrasies and the way he leaves the ball, or he's trying to find ways to always get on top of opposition and on the bowlers. And I think in the next couple of years, sides will start doing a lot more different things to him and trying different fields, and I suppose trying to make him again think differently about how he's going to score his runs.
What about the future of fast bowling? What advice would you give to a young bowler in terms of staying fit and being successful? And do you think fast bowlers can get faster? Mike Atherton wrote a piece the other day saying that they'd reached their peak. So advice to a young bowler about maintaining your physique and your success, and future of fast bowling also.
I think bowlers will get faster, yeah. Especially with T20 cricket, when you've got to do it for 4 overs, you can really sort of ramp it up for that period of time. And you just look through the ages of all sports, everyone's got quicker, fitter, technology's got better, and it seems to keep improving. So I think it will. And I think for fast bowlers, in my opinion, it's about finding what works for you as quickly as you possibly can. I reckon I was 24 when I started finding out what training worked for me. So I've not done a heavy weightlifting squat since I was 24, because I used to get sort of hip issues, and I thought, right, I'm going to stop doing that. And my injury record, touch wood, since then has been pretty good. So I think find exactly what works for you in a training way. I'm a bit old school. I still like to run. I like to get out and run and get some miles in the legs that way. I'm not a big gym bunny and just lifting weights, but I think everyone's different, everyone's specific, and as early as you can into your 20s, find out exactly what works for you and stick to it. And always adapt and always adjust, but don't just feel like you've got to do something because a coach tells you. It's your career.
The more you get, the scoreboard pressure helps.
Of course.
So you came in for that last ball of the World Cup final. Would you have liked to have been the man on strike for that last?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I've never felt as sick in my whole life as that day. People ask me about it. I hated the World Cup final until the last minute. I hated the whole thing. The match wasn't very good. It was really tense and back and forth, win, lose. And I've never, ever felt as sick. I said it on an interview a couple of times, but they've got like this really posh marble basin in Lords. And I thought 2 or 3 times, I can't be sick in there. I'm going to be sick in there. No, don't be sick in there. And I literally was pulling people out the way to think I might actually chunder in this basin here. I just, if Stokesy had getting out, I was thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do. Where am I going to hit the ball? I'm more of a guide at the third man for one than slapping it over, cow corner. So, I was not good that day.
How many fines did Tuffers get on England tours?
Quite a lot. I think I was fined. I've been on, I think, 9 or 10 England tours, and I was definitely fined on average twice a tour, without a shadow of a doubt.
For what?
But then again, sorry.
What for? What sort of misdemeanors? Lateness or?
No. We see lateness. You see, every day on tour, I've been on 9 or 10 tours. I can't remember, but so every day on tour, you had to get the bus every morning, didn't you? Whether it was to go to training or go to the game or go here or go there. Now, out of 9 tours. And all of those days, when we used to go on tour for 3 months and everything, I only missed the bus 5 times. Now, I think that that's quite a good ratio, really, don't you? I did. Out of all of those days, there must have been, crikey, there must have been, 1,000 days which I had to get up every morning and get on the bloody bus at 8 o'clock and go to warm up and go to nets or go to the game or what have you. And out of all those days, only 5 days missed, so I think I'm happy with that. On my first tour to Australia, everyone in the side got fined. It was an amazing statistic. Every one of the squad was fined, and it's not fined for it's just lateness, wearing the wrong shirt, doing this or a bit of
saying
fun,
something
really,
stupid.
You know what I mean? Yes, exactly. So that's that kind of stuff. But even Stewie got fined.
Oh, did he? What for?
Yeah, no, Stewie got fined. Yes, I know. He was the last one to fall. He was the last one to fall to make it the whole squad. We were willing it somehow for Stewie to do something wrong. And I was bowling against Carl Rackerman and at Sydney. And it was before DRS and everything like that. And we needed him just to get out. And then we were going to try and knock off the runs and what have you. And Carl Rackerman, I had him out about LBW about bloody 8 times anyway. And then he's pushed forward, got a little glove straight to Stewie at short leg, to which he's gone. We've gone, how's that? And it was Tony Crafter was the umpire, and he's looked at me and smiled and gone, not out. And Stewie just went, oh, sod this, threw the ball down and went, this is bloody ridiculous. He was clearly being biased and cheating, I'm afraid to say he was. And then he said, right, Stuart, I'll talk to you later. And we've all almost actually sort of cheered because we knew we've got the full house. Even Stewie's got a...
So it was worth not winning the test match to get Stewie fined, basically.
Almost.
That is a great segue into this. I'm just going to pull it up actually. So this is actually the moment you're talking about. No, it's not. Wait, I'm just going to play it actually because I've got it here, but I can't actually see which one it is. Sorry. Carry on talking. So, Jonathan Trott's. Yeah, this is it here. I got it. Okay, hold on one sec. I'm just going to do a screen share. Bear with me a minute because it's just so bloody fiddly doing this screen sharing kind of stuff. Right. Okay, here we go. No, that's not it.